Welcome to EngagePerfect Deep Dive, where content stops being a marketing task and starts running like a system. Today's conversation is led by Liam and Lola. They build EngagePerfect to help agencies and founders turn clear thinking into consistent authority without the chaos. Let's begin today's deep dive.
Okay, so it's 9 a.m. on a Monday. You've got your coffee, you've cracked your knuckles, and you're just staring at that blinking cursor on a blank screen. You know you need to post something. A LinkedIn update, a blog post, maybe a tweet, sorry, an X post, but your brain is just empty.
The dreaded blank canvas. It's a universal nightmare for anyone in this space.
It really is. So, the panic sets in. You write something kind of generic about synergy or hustle. You slap a stock photo of a handshake on it and hit publish.
It's classic.
Right. And you do it all again on Tuesday and Wednesday. It feels like running a marathon on a treadmill. You're sweating buckets, you're exhausting yourself, but you look around and, well, you haven't actually moved an inch.
That is the perfect description of the content hamster wheel. And
Yep.
honestly, that is where the vast majority of businesses are living right now. They're churning out content because they feel they have to.
Exactly.
Not because it's actually going anywhere. It's just activity disguised as achievement.
And that frustration is exactly what we are unpacking today. We aren't just talking about how to write better captions. We are doing a deep dive into a structural fix for that chaos. We're looking at a really compelling piece from EngagePerfect.com, published just last week.
Mid-January 2026, yeah.
It's called The Content Operating System, Building Strategic Authority in Britain.
And that title alone gives you a hint at the solution.
Mm.
I mean, notice it doesn't say content calendar or even content strategy. It says operating system.
Yeah.
That implies something much more, well, mechanical, fundamental.
It does, and frankly, operating system sounds a bit intimidating, like something for the IT department, not for marketing. But before we get to the solution, I want to stick with the problem for just a minute, because the source uses a metaphor that I found, well, tragically accurate.
The railway.
The chaotic railway.
Oh, this is such a strong visual. Yeah, walk us through it.
Okay, so imagine you're the director of this railway network. You look out your office window, and it is bustling. There's steam, conductors are blowing whistles, trains are leaving the platform every 5 minutes.
Looks great from the C-suite.
To the CEO looking down, it looks like a booming success. Look at all that activity. We're shipping trains.
Exactly. Look at our output metrics.
But here's the reality on the ground. The 9 a.m. train is going to Manchester. The 9:15 is going to Paris. The 9:30 is just circling the track endlessly. None of the lines connect.
Right.
So the passengers, your customers, are getting stranded at random stations with no way to get to their final destination. You have a lot of movement, but you don't have any progress.
That is the high cost of disconnected content.
Mm.
It's not just that it looks messy internally. It's that you are actively confusing your audience. If on Monday you're posting a meme, Tuesday you're dropping a dense technical white paper, and Wednesday a video of the office dog.
You're that railway sending people to random cities.
Exactly. If I don't know who you are or what specific problem you solve because your messaging is all over the map, I'm just not going to trust you.
There was another analogy they used that made me laugh, the construction site.
Right. This one is for the people listening who are thinking, well, my team is working hard, so it must be fine.
Exactly. So imagine a building site. You have the electrician, the plumber, and the framer, but they never speak to each other. They're all skilled, they're all sweating. But the electrician is wiring a wall that the plumber just put a water pipe through.
Oh, no.
And the framer is building a doorway that leads straight into a brick wall.
It's a house you can't live in.
It's a total disaster. But here's where I want to play devil's advocate for a second. A lot of people listening might be thinking, look, my content isn't perfect, it's a bit messy, but we get some likes, we get the occasional lead, the business is making money. Why do I need to blow it all up and install this operating system?
Why fix what ain't broke?
Mm.
The good enough fallacy. The source actually addresses this head on. They argue that good enough is the enemy of scalable growth. Sure, if you stay in that fragmented railway chaos mode, you might maintain your current level. You won't collapse tomorrow.
But you can't grow.
You cannot scale
Why not?
because it's so inefficient. In the construction site analogy, you're literally paying people to undo each other's work. In content, if you don't have a system, every single piece is a new invention. You're starting from scratch every single morning. That doesn't scale. And you can't build real authority, as authority requires consistency. You're just burning energy to stay still.
Okay, that makes sense. If you're reinventing the wheel every morning, you never have time to build the car. So if we accept that the hamster wheel is broken and the railway is going nowhere, what is the fix? This is where we get into the content operating system.
The COS.
Right, the COS. And they use the smartphone analogy. Now, I'm usually wary of tech analogies. They get overused, but this one actually clicked for me.
It's the best way to visualize it. Think about your phone. It has a camera, a GPS, a calendar, an email client, all separate tools.
Right, just like a business has a blog, a LinkedIn page, a newsletter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what makes the smartphone useful, it's not the apps themselves, it's the fact they all talk to each other. The operating system, the OS, is that invisible layer that integrates everything.
So I can take a photo,
Content creation,
attach it to an email,
the distribution,
and send it to a contact from my address book.
which is your strategy. The OS makes that seamless. A content OS does the same for your business. It stops your blog from being an isolated island. It connects your strategy, your GPS, to your creation and distribution. It turns random acts of marketing into a cohesive ecosystem.
Okay, build an ecosystem sounds great on a slide deck, but let's get practical. The source breaks the COS down into components. I want to drill into alignment first, because I feel like every company says they are aligned. Oh yes, we're very aligned, but the source implies they usually aren't.
They really aren't. In this context, alignment is brutal. It's a filter. It means if a piece of content doesn't directly serve a specific business goal and a specific audience need, it dies. It just doesn't get made.
So no more Happy National Pizza Day posts just because the social media manager saw it on the calendar.
Unless you sell pizza, absolutely not. It's about discipline. The source argues that every piece of content needs a job description. What is this specific post supposed to do? Is it for brand awareness, lead conversion, customer retention? If you can't answer that in one sentence, you just don't post it.
That leads into the second component, which I think is the biggest efficiency hack in the whole document, repurposing. But wait, before you explain it, I need to distinguish this from lazy marketing.
Good point.
Because sometimes when I hear repurposing, I just think of someone copying and pasting the exact same link to Facebook, X, and LinkedIn.
Right, that's not repurposing, that's just cross-posting. And you're right, it's lazy and usually ineffective. The Content OS approach to repurposing is about asset transformation.
Okay, give me a concrete example. Walk me through the workflow.
Okay, so let's say you spend 10 hours writing a really deep, insightful industry report. Maybe it's the future of AI in 2026. That is your core asset. In the old way, the railway way. You publish it on the blog, tweet the link once, and hope people read it.
And nobody does, because nobody has time to read a 20-page report on a Tuesday afternoon.
Precisely. In a Content OS, that report is just the raw material. It's the quarry. You take that report and you extract 5 key statistics. Those become 5 separate text-based posts for LinkedIn or X.
To drive conversation.
Right. You take the 3 most controversial arguments. Those become scripts for 3 60-second vertical videos for TikTok or Reels. You take the executive summary, that becomes your email newsletter for the week.
So you're not just spamming the link. You're taking the value inside the big asset and packaging it for where your audience actually is.
Exactly. You're getting 20 pieces of content through the intellectual effort of one. And here's the key. Because they all come from that same report, they are automatically aligned. You're hammering the same message from 20 different angles.
Yeah.
That is how you build authority.
You become the person who knows about AI, not the person who posts random links.
Yes. It's efficient, but it also reinforces the message. It creates this echo chamber of your own expertise.
Okay, what about the third component, optimization?
This is the feedback loop. Remember the smartphone. Apps get updates. Bugs get fixed. A Content OS is never done. You have to look at the data. If the vertical videos are driving 80% of your engagement, but you're still spending 80% of your time writing long blog posts, the OS is broken.
It stops you from running on autopilot.
It turns marketing from a guessing game into an engineering problem.
Now, I want to pivot here, because everything we've discussed so far, the smartphone, the efficiency, repurposing, that could apply to a business in New York or Berlin or Tokyo. But the source material is very specific. The title is Building Strategic Authority in Britain.
And this is a critical differentiator in the text.
Yeah.
This is where we take our smartphone and we install the local SIM card.
Why does geography matter so much here? The internet is global. A tweet is a tweet, isn't it?
The platform is global, but the psychology is local. The source has this great section on adapting global strategies for the UK market. It basically warns that if you take a Silicon Valley hustle culture strategy and drop it into the UK, you will get laughed out of the room.
I can see that. The whole crush it, 10x your life, sleep is for the weak. Energy doesn't always land so well in London or Manchester.
It really doesn't. The UK market has an incredibly high BS radar, and the source lists specific nuances you have to account for. Cultural skepticism, specific regulations, and crucially, humor.
Humor is a minefield, though, especially in business.
It is. The source encourages using it, noting that British audiences appreciate wit and self-deprecation. We like brands that don't take themselves too seriously. But, and this is a big but, it has to be authentic.
Right.
If a stiff corporate brand tries to force banter to sound cool, it's just excruciating.
It's cringe, to use the technical term.
Deeply cringe. The source advises, it's better to be useful and polite than to be unfunny. But if you can be useful and witty, that's the gold standard in the UK.
They also mentioned seasonal alignment, which I assumed meant Christmas and Easter, but it goes deeper.
It's about being in sync with the rhythm of UK business. For example, knowing when the fiscal year ends for your clients, usually April in the UK, understanding that nothing really happens in August because everyone is on holiday.
So if you launch your biggest campaign in mid-August in the UK,
You're shouting into an empty room. It's about showing you're part of the ecosystem, not just some outsider broadcasting in. It signals, I am here. I get your reality, and that builds trust.
okay, I want to move to the evidence. Because talk is cheap. We've built this theoretical content operating system. We've installed the UK localization pack. But does it actually work?
Doesn't move the needle.
Exactly. The source gives us 3 case studies. And I want to pick these apart because they are very different businesses, which I think is important.
It is. It proves this isn't just for one type of company.
Let's start with case study 1, the mid-size UK consultancy.
So these guys were classic railway chaos. They were
Yeah.
posting generic business advice, random updates, photos of company lunches. Their pivot was to use the OS to focus on deep expertise. They stopped posting fluff and started producing heavy-hitting reports and webinars on specific industry regulations.
So they went boring.
They went deep. And for their audience, deep wasn't boring at all. It was valuable. They solved expensive problems. And by positioning themselves as the adults in the room, lead generation went up by 40%.
40% is massive. That's not a rounding error.
No, it's not. And it happened because they stopped trying to entertain everyone and started trying to inform their specific buyer. They respected the intelligence of their audience.
Now, contrast that with case study 2, the Scottish e-commerce business.
Totally different vibe. They sell wool products. Now, they could have just posted pictures of sweaters with a buy now button.
Which is what 90% of e-commerce brands do. Look at this. Buy this. 10% off.
Right. Instead, they used the storytelling module of the Content OS. They focused on provenance. They told the story of the specific sheep breeds, the history of the knitting patterns, the individual artisans who made the goods.
They sold the heritage, not just the wool.
And in the UK market, where heritage and origin carry a lot of weight, that just exploded their brand awareness. It gave the product a soul. It wasn't just a commodity anymore. It was a piece of Scotland.
And finally, case study 3, the London tech startup.
This one is for the data nerds. Their problem was noise. They had too many different types of customers, CEOs, developers, marketing managers, all in their database. Their newsletters were a mess because they were trying to talk to everyone at once.
So what did the OS change for them?
They implemented data-driven personalization. They used data to segment their audience rigorously. If you were a CFO, you only saw content about cost savings and ROI. If you were a CTO, you only saw content about API integration and security.
So they just stopped bothering people with irrelevant information.
Exactly. They respected the customer's time. And the result was higher loyalty and engagement, because every time an email from them arrived, the customer knew it would be relevant to them.
So we have 3 companies, a consultancy doing webinars, a Scottish shop telling history stories, and a tech firm doing strict data segmentation. On the surface, they look completely different, but the source claims they're all using the same operating system. What's the common thread?
It comes down to 2 things, strategic consistency and audience understanding.
Break that down for me.
None of them were guessing. They all started with a blueprint. They knew exactly who they were talking to, and they built a system to deliver value to that specific person over and over and over again. The format changed, webinar versus story versus email, but the system of alignment was identical.
So it's moving from campaign thinking to system thinking.
Yes, a campaign ends, a campaign burns out. A system compounds. It gets stronger over time. That's the authority part of the title.
Mm-hmm.
You don't become an authority overnight. You become one by showing up consistently with value for 6 months, a year, 5 years.
That's the part that's hard to sell to a boss who wants results next week. Hey, let's build a system that pays off in a year.
It is difficult, but that's why the railway analogy is so powerful. You can tell your boss, look, we can run fast and go nowhere, sweating on the hamster wheel. Or we can take a beat, lay the tracks, and actually build a line to a real destination.
That's a good way to frame it. So bringing this all back to the listener, the person who started this deep dive, staring at a blank screen, feeling that dread, what is step one? Did they just delete their Instagram?
Don't delete it. Yeah. Yet. But maybe stop posting for a week. The first step has to be an audit. Look at the last 10 things you posted. Print them out. Lay them on a table.
And ask what?
Ask, do these look like 10 apps on a smartphone working together? Or do they look like 10 trains heading in opposite directions?
That is a painful question.
It has to be. If the answer is trains, you need to stop creating and start planning. You need to define your core themes. What are the 3 to 5 things you actually want to be known for? And then build a workflow, a system where every single post ties back to one of those themes.
And if you're targeting the UK?
Then filter those themes through the local lens. Check your tone, check your calendar, make sure you aren't sounding like some generic global bot.
It sounds like a lot of work up front.
It is. Building an operating system is harder than just downloading an app. It takes time to set up. But once it's built, it runs.
Yeah.
It saves you so much time in the long run because you aren't reinventing the wheel every Monday morning. You have a process. You have a quarry of content.
And you aren't sweating on the hamster wheel anymore.
Exactly. You're driving the train.
I want to wrap up with a thought that struck me while reading the conclusion of the source. It's a bit of a challenge to our listeners, something to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We worry so much about feeding the algorithm. We worry that if we stop posting for a day, we'll disappear. But ask yourself this. If your brand's content vanished from the internet tomorrow, every blog, every tweet, every video, would your audience actually miss the value you were providing? Or would they just notice that the noise had stopped?
That is the ultimate litmus test.
If they'd only noticed the silence, you're just making noise. A content operating system ensures it's the value they miss. It ensures you're an asset to their day, not just another interruption.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's the goal.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Go build your OS.
See you next time.
If this episode gave you clarity, don't leave it as a one-time insight. Subscribe and stay close to the thinking. We publish deep dives that get sharper every week because authority compounds. This is EngagePerfect Deep Dive. We'll keep raising the bar.